In northern Spain, angry Basques fill the streets on the most important day of their recent history, the opening of the new Basque Parliament. But these people protested. They're relatives of Basque militants, those who'd taken up arms and bombs in the cause of Basque independence. Madrid calls them terrorists and keeps them jailed elsewhere in Spain. But for their relatives, they're political prisoners, and they want them released. Other demands are for Euskara, the Basque language long suppressed by Franco. It's been promised a new status now, but it's not happening quickly enough for these people. More ominous, the protests of the unemployed. Their numbers are growing, a reflection of the economic shadow that now hangs over the Basque region today. It was then, in something less than total triumph, that the Basque leaders gathered for the opening. But whatever its imperfections, this new parliament is a long stride towards the autonomy that Basques want. As such, it's a concession to the regionalism that General Franco saw as the prime threat to Spain's unity. And that spirit of regionalism isn't just surfacing here in the Basque country. Galicia, Andalusia, and Catalonia are all making their demands. This parliament, in fact, is just the latest in a series of major political developments that have been changing the face of Spain over the last few weeks. Throughout the Franco era, it was the army that guaranteed centralized rule from Madrid. Changes have left the army leadership confused and, it's said, unhappy over its new role. It's one more challenge for King Juan Carlos, who, since his coronation in 1976, has provided a stabilizing influence. He's admired by the people and respected by the military for his efforts in trying to unify the various regions of his country. The youthful king has been instrumental in replacing Franco's hardline officials with new liberalized institutions and democratically oriented leaders. But these new freedoms have brought their own problems too. Here in Seville, as throughout Andalusia, voices have been calling for provincial self-rule. After nearly 40 years of Franco's repression, the pressures upon the central government are now mounting rapidly. Responding to the Andalusian demands, Premier Adolfo Suarez declared the province would be allowed to vote on whether the issue should be put to a referendum. 6 weeks before the elections, Suarez announced new constitutional terms for the province's autonomy negotiations and recommended that the electorate should vote no. This brought massive demonstrations throughout Andalusia by thousands of people demanding autonomy. Waving green and white Andalusian flags, the chanting, singing crowds surged through city streets, shouting party slogans and insisting upon self-rule. These street demonstrations were largely good-natured, and police had little difficulty in controlling the vast crowds. But occasionally, violence did erupt. Arrests were made and several people were injured. Both sides saw it as fresh evidence for their stance on the autonomy issue. The Communist Party exhorted its audiences to vote for the party, claiming it alone could cure the region's economic difficulties. Party leader Santiago Carrillo vehemently attacked the Madrid government for changing the terms of Andalusian autonomy and demanded that home rule should be granted.
darle un estatuto de segunda clase a los andaluces.
The crucial point was that the new constitutional measures demanded at least a 50% vote in favour of the referendum in each of the region's provinces. It was a demand that everyone knew could not be met. Voting was slow due to poor weather, inadequate electoral facilities in rural areas, and confusion among many inexperienced voters about the entire election issue. Only 60% of Andalusians took part, with approximately 55% voting in favour of autonomy. But two regions failed to deliver the required 50% yes vote, thus dooming the referendum to failure. With this result, Andalusia could soon become a new theatre for violence if urgent solutions to its problems are not found. Barcelona, capital of Catalonia, another region that's long dreamed of independence. The Generalitat, Catalonia's parliament, dates from the 14th century. With its own language and cultural traditions, the province has remained fiercely independent, even in spite of Franco's repression. Since Franco's death, Catalonia's independent spirit has risen anew. It was rewarded in September 1977 by royal decrees restoring the autonomy of the Generalitat. Exiled Catalonian leaders have returned home, and new personalities such as Jordi Pujol have emerged to lead their province to full autonomy. In mid-March, Catalans voted for the first time to elect deputies to the Generalitat. On Barcelona's famed Ramblas, as elsewhere throughout the province, the election campaign turned into a dramatic illustration of Catalonia's restored freedom. No longer was it forbidden to sing Catalan songs, chant political slogans. Spain's national leaders, including Prime Minister Adolfo Suarez, visited Catalonia, trying to whip up support for their parties and policies. Suarez himself spent 5 hectic days in the province, meeting local officials and speaking to thousands of voters.
La condición propia de unos ideales les lleve, pero que se defienda siempre desde la perspectiva de que puedan ser amigos en la España de hoy y en la España que queremos construir para mañana, personas que defiendan intereses ideológicos diferentes. Esa es mi intención.
Equally enthusiastic crowds greeted socialist leader Felipe González, who came to support the local Socialist Party. The Catalonian Socialists, closely linked with the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party of Felipe González, fielded a huge list of parliamentary candidates. Their election manifesto concentrated upon Catalonia's two problems of severe regional unemployment and soaring inflation, now approaching 30% a year. Unemployment on the farms of Andalusia has forced thousands of unskilled workers to seek new jobs in Catalonia's industry. These workers gave the socialists considerable support. The Catalonian socialist leader, Joan Raventos, claimed that they, alone among the competing parties, would be capable of unifying the province within the framework of national reconstruction. Franco's death in 1975, coupled with the Madrid administration's moves to re-establish closer ties with Catalonia, brought about the revival of demands for self-rule. The return from exile in 1977 of the much-respected Josep Tarradellas, the 80-year-old former president of the Generalitat, helped dramatically to create a climate of goodwill. The election, held on March the 20th, produced surprising results. The national parties of Suarez and Gonzalez both failed badly, and victory went to the Catalonian liberal conservative Convergencia party, led by Jordi Pujol, who is certain to be the new leader of the Generalitat. Convergencia won 43 of the 135 regional parliamentary seats. The Socialists came in second with 33 seats. The Communists won 25 seats, and Premier Suarez's Centre Democrats came in a dismal fourth with just 18 seats. For Madrid, these election results were proof, if proof were needed, of just how powerful the movement towards Spanish regional autonomy has become. Premier Suarez's main consolation is that, autonomy apart, Pujol and his party share the same basic political beliefs as the Centre Democrats. At the moment, in fact, the real worry for Madrid is not in Catalonia, but in the Basque country. The old Basque town of Guernica is the ancient capital of this region, which usually makes news headlines because of violence, but which also has its idyllic side. Guernica was devastated in the Spanish Civil War by German bombers, sent by Hitler at General Franco's request to terrorize the rebels. But the old Parliament building, the Casa de Juntas, survived intact, and so did the old oak tree, the traditional assembly place for Basque leaders. Inside, an old stained glass window pictures the original Basque oak tree, and nearby, what is said to be the original tree, under which the kings of Spain once swore to uphold the rights of the Basque people. On the walls, old inscriptions commemorate the fueros, the old Basque rights to self-government granted back in the Middle Ages and observed by Madrid until the arrival of General Franco's nationalists. The royal seat, like the whole building, remained empty for many years, during which the Basques nurtured their traditions and culture in the face of hostility and repression from Madrid. Now, a building that had become virtually a museum has come alive again, home of a new Basque government. The fact that it's done so is still almost unbelievable to many Basques. One of the few tolerated forms of Basque self-expression has been in sport. These men are preparing for a game of high alai, or more simply, pelota, which attracts big crowds and also gamblers. In Europe, the game is only played in the Basque regions of Spain and France. It bears some resemblance to other war games, but the main difference is the curious catching and throwing basket, the cesta. The scoring and the rules are quite simple, with only 1 or 2 men in each team. The ball, made of hard rubber bound in goatskin, has to be caught and then thrown in a continuous movement. For almost 40 years, Spain's Basques could express themselves in sport, but not in politics. In the years following Franco's death in 1975, the central government in Madrid remained dominated by conservatives, unwilling to make any concessions to the Basques. The result was violence and a long succession of assassinations carried out by the hard-line guerrillas of ETA, the initials for Basque Homeland and Liberty. Ironically, this funeral in Vitoria in March was of a senior member of the local police force, or Miñones. He was reportedly the first policeman killed by ETA who was not a member of the National Guardia Civil. The whole Basque region, then, has been a huge problem for the post-Franco leadership in Madrid. Most of the population seems to have given at least its tacit support to ETA in the belief that violence was the only way to win concessions. But gradually, the central government, with the approval of King Juan Carlos, has become more liberal in its thinking, and the democratic process is now being offered as a viable alternative, with municipal and national elections open to Basque political parties. Most of them subsequently distanced themselves from the ETA extremists. The new mood of reconciliation was reflected by the decision by Premier Adolfo Suarez to go to the Basque country personally during the recent campaign. It was the first such visit by a prime minister since before the Civil War. But Suarez and his Democratic Centre managed to win only 6 of the new Assembly's 60 seats. The poor showing by the Democratic Centre proved to be little comfort for the Spanish Socialist Party, because it suffered a similar fate at the hands of the Basque electorate. Like the UDC, the Socialists sent along their party leader, Felipe González. Senor González claimed his party as the defender of democracy in Madrid. He warned that self-styled saviors of the homeland, in other words, the far right, is still strong and could still attempt a coup d'etat. These forces, he said, are the negation of liberty and democracy.
Ese modelo de abandonar las instituciones, dejándolas vacías para que las llenen los que no quieren la libertad ni la democracia, es una irresponsabilidad grave, de la que la historia le pedirá cuenta a quien la practica.
The socialist recipe, however, also proved unattractive to the region's voters. They gave the Basque Socialist Party only 9 seats. Further left in the political spectrum, the Communist Party displayed colourful posters spelling out the shortcomings of the other parties. But again, local feelings proved much stronger than political ideology. The Communists took just 1 seat. The March vote in the Basque provinces was a clear snub for Spain's main political parties. There was little comfort for Prime Minister Suarez. Though he was instrumental in setting up the elections, the Basque voters didn't thank him through the ballot box. His main hope here, as in Catalonia, is to reach a position of mutual respect with the nationalists, a position where the central government is no longer seen as the oppressor. The clear winners, of course, were the Basque Nationalists, in particular the Basque Nationalist Party, led by the respected figure of Carlos Garaycoechea. He led his deputies out of the Madrid Parliament early this year in protest against alleged delaying tactics in pressing ahead with limited autonomy. In Basque circles, he is regarded as Catholic conservative and therefore a moderate. Another BNP figurehead is 83-year-old Jesus Maria de Leizaola, president of the Basque government in exile, who joined the party in 1918. He only returned home last December after 43 years in exile, and only after the Guernica Statute for Autonomy was approved by both the Spanish Parliament and the Basques themselves. He too has called for an end to violence and for a peaceful path to autonomy. 6 seats, compared to the BNP's 25 seats, went to Euskadiko Ezkerra. This party is regarded to have links with the political military branch of ETA, which itself remains banned.
Between
Euskadiko spokesmen have pointed out the many obstacles to a coalition with the BNP.
The Nationalist Party is very difficult because there are ideological differences between the two parties.
Its philosophy is basically Marxist-Leninist, and though some of its members took part in last year's bomb attacks on tourist centres, it has renounced violence, at least for the time being. It sees the Guernica statute as a necessary step leading towards eventual independence. More militant is the Rr8014, or United People Party. It has ties with ETA Militar. Its leader, Federico Letamendia, known as Ortzi, insists the regions have lost faith in Spain's national parties.
And have no confidence in the parties which are Spanish parties. They have no confidence in the party of the government, and they have no confidence in the parties who said of themselves they are leftist. These parties, Socialist Party, Communist Party, in the Basque country, at least, they have done a rightist politics. So people in the Basque country has voted nationalist and has voted Nationalist Basque Party, which is a rightist party, but at least it is a Basque rightist party. Well, we think that really people in the countries of the Spanish state have proved they want a real self-government.
The party's 3 deputies in Madrid ran into trouble when they refused to take their seats in protest over the independence issue. The 11 members elected to the Basque Parliament are also boycotting proceedings and keeping their options open.
The statute and from the Constitution is not a tool adequate to resolve the Basque problems.
The police presence in the Basque region is a contentious issue, with the nationalists insisting on a total withdrawal of the Guardia Civil, the paramilitary force still seen as a symbol of repression. They refuse to be filmed. These are members of the local police, or miñones, and their duties in the past have been restricted to road patrols and guard duties. Under the Guernica statute, an eventual autonomous Basque police force is envisaged. The Basque city of Bilbao is a major port, as well as a big industrial centre. It has always contributed a great deal to Spain's national income, and this is a long-standing Basque grievance. They feel that for years they were virtually paying General Franco blood money for his civil war victory. Among their main demands, the Basques are insisting on the right to impose and spend their own taxes. This is being granted to them to a large degree. Also, nationalism has given backbone to the Basque labour unions. They want to negotiate with management or government at the regional level in future. Education is another area where Basques can now control their own destiny. Here in the small Basque town of Lasarte, young pupils attend lessons conducted entirely in the Basque language. These customers, or Basque schools, have been flourishing since about 1950, although the use of the local language was then banned by Franco. So they were conducted in secret, financed by private sources, and right up to the present, they have received no aid from the state. From now on, though, Basque is recognized as an official language, and most education matters are controlled by the new Basque authorities. So in future, parents will have the option of sending their children to a Basque language school. The new statute also allows the Basques to control their own radio and television services, so more Basque language programs can be expected. And so the Basques can look forward to a revival in their culture, an area where they have won greater concessions than the Catalans, for example. This must be especially rewarding to those people who have struggled to keep Basque art alive. For example, folk singer Emmanuel, here singing the words of a love poem by poet Mikel Arregui.
Maite minduzulako, hemen nago bakarri, zerbait eman nahi zenidan, utzi nauzu gutxi. Zerbait eman nahi zenidan, utzi nauzu gutxi.
In the coming years, the Basque country wants to be more than a picturesque tourist region and to be no longer regarded abroad as a trouble spot. The democratic process has brought more autonomy than the Basques enjoyed during the short-lived republic before Franco. The setting up of the new regional parliament and the Guernica statute have brought a lull in acts of violence, but the occasional demonstration still goes on. The labour unions continue to press for better wages and working conditions. For other groups, supporters of ETA or the radical nationalists, the statute itself has not gone far enough. Behind all the noisy but generally peaceful demonstrations, there is no doubt that the hard men of ETA are still waiting, their weapons near to hand, ready to press their demands for full independence. After autonomy, any fighting ahead could be between militants and moderates within the region. This gives cause for optimism, because the recent elections show the moderates have a clear majority. They are putting folklore before fighting, or as Madrid sees it, autonomy yes, independence no. It's a compromise accepted by all but the extremists. One can only hope that it will be a success.